This is the Honeypot Social Intelligence Podcast. I'm Khalil Elamine.
I'm Michael Howard.
And we wanted to develop a place where social intelligence professionals and people that work with social media data could come and understand social intelligence, understand how to get started, why you should get started, hacks, tips, tricks, resources, and just any and everything that's going to help businesses capitalize on this new wave of digital data that we have abundant to us. And had to bring my partner in crime, Michael Howard. We co-founded a company called Nichefire, where we help businesses predict and identify cultural trends. So with that being said, let's get into the pod, man. Michael, I wanted to talk to you about something that I've been noticing a lot, seeing a lot of, and I know you have too. We got started with Nichefire. What was that? 2017-ish or so, and we struggled in the beginnings to really connect with like a community because we did not know how to talk about the use of social media data in a way where it was actually heard and accepted from not only people at the company but leadership at the company, right? It was like, it was like the things for the kids, right? Like that's how they kind of treated it. And I can remember when we first got started with Nichefire, we would just spend hours upon hours like in our little bitty office just trying to figure out how to talk about this stuff. And fast forward to 2021, we meet Jillian and get introduced to this wonderful community, the Social Intelligence Lab, and just started to learn that we weren't alone, right? And that, businesses we're starting to understand that, hey, there could be something here with these conversations and these things that are happening specifically on social media. And I don't know about you, man, but that was maybe one of the most pivotal points as an entrepreneur for me, because it literally was if we started in 2017, we had 3 years of just striking out and really just trying to learn. And then we get to a year where we had to pause and do a lot of just research and just understanding and connecting. But I think that year that we took to learn and become certified social intelligence practitioners, it really took our business to the next level. But I wanted to ask you, so with that being said, right, and getting started from a blank slate, right? Say that you are a person that works in retail or CPG, right? And you understand that there are these opportunities that consumers or potential customers are talking about online, but your boss doesn't necessarily know or want you to do that type of work. So where would you get started first if you knew or you wanted to prove out that this is a good methodology or way to approach strategies for, let's just say, for the marketing department or social media department? Let's be a little bit more specific. What would you do first?
Well, I mean, you have to come at it from an angle of like, okay, what are they doing now? I mean, obviously they're probably going to be doing a lot of surveys. They're probably going to be leveraging a lot of their own, their kind of owned and paid media and stuff like that. We have to kind of start off by treating this as like, this isn't a replacement to any of the data that we're already getting. This is an enhancement to really thoroughly validate and understand consumers at a deeper level. I always like to kind of, I can't take credit for this, but I always like to leverage this statement where when it comes to like social listening and using that social media data, it's kind of like being able to have that survey or that focus group without having to ask the questions. You're able to kind of search and research and understand what people are saying based on querying the information that that is coming from the social media platforms. And so it becomes a really valuable data set. And oftentimes, I mean, if you're, say, like a smaller business or you're a team that is just starting out with that, I mean, one thing that's really nifty is that a lot of platforms already have really robust like search functions and stuff like that. You can even there's some some of your social media management tools like your Sprout Socials, Hootsuite stuff that have some listening capability in there. But really, what you need to focus on in the beginning is just kind of building up that case. Like, hey, we could understand these types of insights much better if we had this kind of access to tools and this kind of support for that as well. But of course, that's for those organizations that are starting to that are either starting to kind of think about that or have not done that, not done it yet, that sort of thing. What's really nice that like a lot of organizations now, when we started in 2017, a lot of companies were just like, man, what's this stuff? And so a lot of organizations were starting to really kind of explore and dabble into that. And, fast forward to 2024, companies are really starting to treat social listening a little bit more seriously. It's starting to become more part of that conversation. And especially too, like, one of the things that we're trying to deliver with our platform is that understanding of social culture can really impact the opportunities that come to the table, and really help us understand the emerging risks that happen out there, because millions and millions and millions, actually billions, I should say, consumers are out there talking about things that you should know, needless to say. As you start to become more and more mature with your structure for social listening, that sort of thing, it starts to become more apparent that we need to figure out how to kind of like build out a full robust case and full robust research that comes not just leveraging just social data. We have to understand that it is like the more diverse source that we get, the better. And so survey data, excellent. There's a lot of internal data that you can get from contact centers and stuff like that, that are very telling of like what consumers are complaining about or having or interested in. Search data, web traffic, what's going on in the news and stuff. We all know this, but it's just we need to start working on a cohesive way to bring in those kinds of insights and understand how we can drive value and demonstrate ROI, especially to those that are in leadership.
Yeah. So, and appreciate you sharing that. And the reason that I lean on you for that, Michael, because I've learned a lot just kind of working with you over the past, almost decade. And I know that you know how to do some of these things and be really scrappy, as we started a agency before we started our tech company. So, I do think that you have some great ideas in that regard. But one thing I think I want to kind of back things up a bit, and let's talk about insights, and what is an insight versus just what is a finding. Because I do think that, like, if I'm putting myself in the shoes of someone that is like trying to champion and these ideas into their company or whatever, they're going to probably see instances where they can make a case, or you said, kind of start with what you're trying to do, right? But what happens when that use case isn't strong enough? And I think that happens a lot when you find something you see interesting online, but you don't have a immediate understanding of how that insight makes. For me, an insight is some information that you can glean from interactions online that you can make an immediate business case out of, right? You can use it to march your business, march your unit in a certain direction with the information. For example, like we used to do when we were building CompetiSmart, right? And we had that one insight that with Home Depot in reference to their sentiment of their customers would sway based off of how much time customers were spending in lines at their stores and things of that nature, right? So it's like that insight would be a great way to activate that would be like operationally, right? How do we improve our operations in store to help our customers not be so frustrated as they're checking out or something like that, right? Versus, hey, Johnny and his mom didn't like the fact that the screws were misplaced, and those are findings, right? And those are definitely things that you will be able to find on social media. But I think that it's incredibly important to understand that. So with that being said, how do you decipher what to call out if you're this lone wolf trying to champion this idea, this methodology into your department. How do you make sure that what you're finding out there with some of these basic tools or things that you mentioned, right? You said Sprout, Hootsuite. How do you make sure that people are understanding the impact behind what you're bringing to the table? Is the question.
Yeah. Now, now here's the thing. The way I like to kind of discern findings versus insight. So findings I would classify more as like the what. And then the insight is more of the why. And the why matters, right? Because that leads that actual business insight there too. And so, for instance, say, there's other tools too you can use to help with this as well. Anywhere from Google Trends, you can use TikTok's Creative Center, stuff like that. So, for instance, you can, an example of that what that finding would be like, for instance, when Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce were first announced that they were dating. That sort of thing, right? The why would be, Taylor Swift's mega fan base is able to lead massive swaths of fans and whatnot to pay attention to Kansas City Chiefs because of because of Taylor Swift. So that would be kind of like that's probably like a poor example, but but a good example of like actioning that would be like Kraft Heinz, for instance. So you get the event is Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce, start dating, that sort of thing. The insight behind that is the massive amount of fans that Taylor Swift has, the adoration that these fans have for her, and then like the super fans are able to are starting to spread towards the Chiefs as a result. And then you see a brand activating on that. In this instance, Kraft Heinz. So if you remember, there was like that shot of like Taylor Swift eating like French fries with. I think it was French fries with like ketchup and seemingly ranch. Yeah. And so, Kraft Heinz just dubbed over their ranch brand with ketchup and calling it ketchup and seemingly ranch for a while, and it just busted through retailers and a whole bunch of new sales, stuff like that. It was wild, just because of understanding that insight, understanding the why. Like you have a mega influencer, Taylor Swift, that has little to no baggage, and people adore her. And then you're able to see on top of that too, like her association with other brands like Kansas City Chiefs, just skyrockets. Jersey sales are like 400% in sales for like Kansas City jerseys and merchandise. That's kind of like a no-brainer if you're a brand to be able to kind of jump on that sort of opportunity there. And I think Kraft Heinz is a great example of a brand that did that really well.
Yeah, I think I like to actually table this conversation specifically around like this influencer model. Right now, keep in mind, Taylor Swift is definitely like top of the food chain when it comes to that type of attention, right? Kraft was able to capitalize. I believe New Balance was able to capitalize. Patrick Mahomes' wife was able to create a whole nother business making jackets out of this attention, right, from all those things. So I think there's like that's a strategy in itself where social intelligence, I think, could be huge, and especially for brands right now, because I feel like because of all the success with influencers over the past couple years, especially last year, I feel like brands might be throwing a lot of dollars that way without really having a more defined approach to it that makes sense with the data. But let's bring that back up in another episode, because we could probably do 10 episodes on that type of stuff, because that stuff gets real interesting real quick. But let's move on from that though, and I appreciate you sharing that stuff, Michael, because I think it's important for us to, like I said, I want to help build up that person that wants to talk about this stuff at work and they just don't know how. So one thing that I was noticing too on LinkedIn, especially in the community, is all the many social listening wins of last year, right? We've had some, and it's funny because some of them were like really timely. So one in particular that I wanted to call out was the Stanley incident. So from everyone that's not aware, right, Stanley had a customer, right, and this is a total play on UGC, right? A customer posts a video. Her car burns up, and when she goes to the salvage yard to get things out of the car that aren't burnt, the Stanley cup is still in the cup holder with ice in it. And it goes viral on TikTok to the point where fans are adding Stanley about it. And immediately, I think maybe within the day, Stanley CEO makes a response video for the woman, and maybe a week later, she receives a new cup and a car, right? Now, a huge win for social listening and like the opportunity to kind of catch some of those things, especially with the virality of platforms like TikTok and Reels and how quickly content can get spread out. But I think that what's not talked about enough, and I got some notes over here, is the story of Stanley and how, and I think that this in itself could be another episode for us too, because there's so many different cool elements of this. But historically, I mean, Stanley's been around for 100 years, right? Historically, the brand was built for that blue collar worker, and thermoses and things like that were like their main jam for so long. So, but in around 2016 or so, I think that they started to kind of turn to another demographic because they launched a new the Quencher line. That's what those cups are that everyone likes. Those big cups. You see them at the gym, and they started promoting them and positioning them to women, and by like having like special colors and stuff, special colorways, and they had already started their social intelligence journey back then, right? Then they have a new CEO come in. Guy left Crocs, I think. He was at Crocs before. And, he has this focus on social media and social intelligence and influencer marketing, which kind of pumped up the brand, right? So now they have this occult following. Women, mommy bloggers, everyone are talking about these tumblers, right? Mm-hmm. And then this fire situation happens. And it just kind of explodes, right? Where, their sales, and I think I seen some crazy stat that they had like, let me see, it's like a 1,000% increase in sales and revenue from 2019 to 2023. That's ridiculous.
That's
now,
wild.
It's wild, right? The thing is that no one's talking about all those steps that it took for Stanley to have that muscle built up, or that functionality within the company to understand, all the aspects of social intelligence. They're doing some social listening. They're, doing some, that in the wild type of ethnographic research, right? They got that going on. I'm pretty sure they got reviews and stuff like that going on. And the reason that they were able to capitalize on something like this was really because they took them, years to kind of set that up to the point now where their demographic is, millennial and Gen Z women, and then what do? They get the lady a new car, and then they drop a new cup exclusively with Starbucks, and then people go crazy over the cup again, right? So it's like they're just capitalizing on this attention, but it all comes from them, kind of putting that flag in the ground back in 2015, 2016 that, hey, we want to start moving towards, a new demographic, and we want to use social media to do that. But, I know I took a while to kind of explain that, but
that's fine. No, it's really fascinating.
With that being said, right, what do you think the best ways for a brand or for a company that could be looking for a new frontier, right? Like Stanley, they were looking for a new way to create a new revenues or whatever. Like, where would you start if we were, you were fresh and had to do the same, right?
Oh, wow. No, that's a great question, and of course, this is going to be case by case.
Hmm.
I mean, of course, the whole point of social listening is to listen to consumers,
Hmm.
right? Um, so there's a variety of elements here. I mean, because like we were talking about in the beginning too. I mean, you want to be able to, you know, figure out a way to use social listening as not only like a foundational piece for consumer research, but also a way to enhance the other research that you do. And so, for instance, like look at surveys, focus groups, and the information you get from that, you can enhance that even more, kind of validate some of the findings that you have with that using social listening. But you can also
Hmm.
uncover some of these emerging themes and topics that you might not have already known about as well. And so, for instance, I think Stanley just did a fantastic job of listening to, an unmet need in a market where they were kind of they were previously stagnating in. And I think they were able to kind of pick up on like the value that of like that different technologies for like preserving heat or preserving cold stuff like that for drinks and beverages um, and food and whatnot too. So like your Yeti coolers and your drink holders for that. Um,
Hmm.
I think I think they were just able to really, really listen to their market really well, really, really
Hmm.
listen to the consumers, especially like the women that really wanted to have that opportunity to have like a you know a cup that can keep their drink really cold and have
Hmm.
it's attractive, it looks really nice, the design is great, and that sort of thing, and just kind of take it the way there. But however, the other aspect of this too is like you need to be able to on the lookout for the cases where people are sharing their stories around what they're doing with your brand. So like in that instance with that woman in her car, whatnot, I mean, you have to be vigilant as to those kinds of stories, and being able to have that kind of creative bravery to do something about it. Being able to kind of pick up on those themes and kind of creatively think of like how can I help this consumer, and then how can I also leverage the power of social media has to turn this into a great story about the brand and how we've been
Hmm.
able to help one of our customers in a very remarkable way. And so um, yeah, it's really about kind of bringing it down to understanding like who that new opportunity with that consumer, that finding that unmet need. I mean, as a we're entrepreneurs, and
Hmm.
we've had that grit and perseverance in trying to figure out um, what is needed and what in the market and that sort of thing. I mean, we spent years trying to sell to different marketing folks, social intelligence people doing anything with social media, and it took us a while to figure out like, hey, what is it that they really need? What are some of the major pain points they have? And so that at least with that Stanley use case, I think that's a fantastic example of just really truly understanding the
Hmm.
customer and what they need.
I think it'd be important too, like when you are using big examples like that as your use case for social intelligence at your companies, you have to understand that it took them years to kind of get there
Hmm.
and to
Yeah.
be in that agile space where they can take advantage of these opportunities. Right? There's no way that you start, you say as a company you're going to start doing these things and then you just start having success like the next week. It's going to take time, right? And that's the whole point of kind of calling out those instances. I mean, we had and those are extreme, right? The lady's car
Hmm.
burns up, it's terrible.
Hmm.
And I'm so glad that they were able to kind of make that right. But
Hmm.
that's not to say that you have to, as a company, want to be just buying cars every time something happens with someone either, right? But the
Yeah.
fact that they were able to kind of capture that, let you understand as a customer too that they're listening and your voice matters, which I think kind of builds more love and love for your brand with your customers and stuff like
Hmm.
that. But Michael, man, I really appreciate you jumping and doing this. I think we want to try to do this, bi-monthly. Maybe have some guests. Maybe have some other topics, or guests bring some other topics to the table. But I want everyone to look at the comment, or not the comment sections, but the resources that we mentioned. to the TikTok Creator Studio and some of those free resources. We're going to always plug those in, so you can find those in the description. And also, if anyone is interested or open to understanding or wanting to learn more about cultural intelligence or predictive cultural intelligence for that nature, we do offer a free trial of our tool. You can always reach out to us. The link for the trial will be in the description as well. But Michael, until then, let's close this out, and I look forward to doing this with you again next episode, buddy.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Right. Let me do some clapping to get us out of here. There we go.
There we go.
And I don't think that we had 36 seconds of, audience today, but see you guys for the next episode.
Yeah. See ya.